In the second week of March 2020, we took a trip to, we did this, we ate this, we shopped, we did more of this, we ate this, we shopped, then we came home. So we went on a wonderful vacation to Playa del Carmen, Mexico, and we had a great week. We were quarantined for 14 days. We're actually about halfway through that now. We don't even know what the future holds yet. So what better time than now to put together a video showing how I make pumpernickel bread, which is a light and fluffy loaf instead of the heavy loaf that's typical. And before anybody leaves a nasty comment, I'm not really pretending that this is pumpernickel bread. I know pumpernickel bread is very specific and looks a certain way, and really what this is and I was working to develop over the course of about 6 months. I've been experimenting and trying different things to try to get the flavor of pumpernickel bread in an easy to make loaf that would be that I'd be able to make all the time. I did get the taste down really well, but my wife, who loves pumpernickel bread, found that it was very, very heavy, and she couldn't eat very much of it. Like a single slice felt like 2 or 3 slices to her. So I thought, you know, I also make like a French loaf, which is very light and fluffy, and I thought, what if I make a French loaf using the ingredients of the pumpernickel, kind of make a hybrid, combine them together? What would that be like? And the very first time that I did it, it came out almost perfectly. So, and I was doing it in a Dutch oven, so it was the round loaf that you expect to see. But a round loaf, you know, isn't ideal for cutting into even slices. So I kind of have altered that as well. And so what I'm going to show you today is how I make a very easy recipe, actually. And it's just the flavorings that bring together and make it taste like a pumpernickel loaf. So again, I know this isn't really pumpernickel bread, but it's kind of like a loaf of bread that you could make that tastes like pumpernickel, and I think it does a pretty good job of that. At least that's certainly I get that comment. So I'm going to do that for you right now, and I hope you like it, and you know, leave a comment, and I appreciate it. Good, thank you. So for this recipe, instead of using water as the main liquid, we use coffee. And what I like to do is use a very dark coffee, a little bit more intense, and this is actually called Intensely Dark. I also use black silk, which is another Folgers product, and just get it going. And I'm going to use about 1 1/4 cups of coffee, which is what this produces. So to that, I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of just cold water. This is filtered water. And so I have 1 1/2 cups of fluid, which is going to be very hot. So what I'm going to do is I am going to put that in the fridge to let it cool down. Probably take about 10 minutes for it to cool down. I need it to be about 100 to 110 degrees. So while that's in the fridge cooling down, I will juice 1 lemon, and I'm going to be adding that to the coffee. And the reason for that is twofold. For one thing, it is a natural dough improver, and for another thing, you want it to have a bit of a sour taste to it. And the finished pumpernickel bread does have a bit of a sour taste. Usually, you know, it's a sourdough but I don't have a sourdough. I haven't started doing that, although I thought about it, but I don't. So in the meantime, the lemon, the juice of a lemon will work just as well. Okay, so I've taken it out a couple of times and I've tested it, and it's still a little tiny bit warmer than I would like. Maybe just a touch. But I'm going to add in 1 tablespoon of the lemon juice. I've measured that out here because I'm just doing this one-handed while holding my camcorder. 1 tablespoon of the lemon juice, and just like that. Yeah, okay, that's better. So I have my measuring spoons over here, and I'm going to measure out 2 tablespoons of molasses. Oops. Oh, jeez. Ay, ay, ay. Okay. Uh-oh. Okay, that's one. And this is a very flimsy package. This is a new package. I usually use a small one, but when I went to the store, they only had 2 of the... And I always like to have a bowl at hand to make it easier, so that I have someplace to put everything that's dirty so I don't dirty up the counter. And I'm going to just take that temperature again and make sure that we're still good here. Okay, that's perfect. So now I put in 2 teaspoons of active dry yeast. And I know you can use instant yeast if you want to, but I really like using active dry yeast because I like to see the yeast in action. So there, that's 1 and 2. Just want to kind of mix that all up. Okay, it's already starting. I can see the yeast is starting to bubble up and rise. I'm just going to put that right over here, and it can do what it's going to do while I do the next step, which is the dry ingredient. 3.5 cups of all-purpose unbleached flour, and so I'm just going to put that in here. To that I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of salt, and I like to use sea salt. One tablespoon of cocoa. And 1.5 teaspoons of caraway seeds. Now I'm going to actually use 1.5 teaspoons. I'm going to put in 3 half teaspoons because I'm just going to take it directly out of this jar, and the 1 teaspoon won't fit in there. So caraway seeds are very important to the flavor of the pumpernickel bread. 2 and 3. So that's 1.5. And it already is smelling good. Okay, so put this over here, this over here. And I do want to show you how it looks. This is the white flour, and I think you probably can see that it actually is quite brown now because of the cocoa. And I wanted to show you this. The yeast really like that. They love the molasses. They're quite content with the coffee. Everything's working perfectly. And I'm going to add this to this. I'm going to start mixing it up. And then you will see how that comes together. So I'm going to add the coffee yeast mixture to the flour cocoa mixture, and I'm just going to mix it up together. I'm going to mix it together as much as I can with the spoon, and it becomes very lumpy like this. But it's a very interesting smell, I can tell you that. I'm going to try to get as much together as I can before I have to get in there with my hands. And this counts as my aerobics exercise for the day. Okay, and I have the second spoon here where I like to kind of clean off the first spoon because there's a lot of stuff in there and I want to make sure it's all there. Okay, and I'm just going to go wet my hand now. And I'll be right, because I do want to show you how this comes together. So, taking that off of the tripod, and this is how it goes. So what I do, I just keep it right in this bowl, and then I pick it up and I squeeze it down with the heel of my hand, and you will see how it all does come together. It was early last September, as near as I can remember, while strolling down the lane in tipsy pride. Not a word did I utter as I lay down in the gutter, and a pig came up and lay down by my side. Not a soul was we disturbing as we lay down in the curbing, when this high-toned lady come and I heard her say, "You can tell a man who boozes by the company he chooses." And the pig got up and slowly walked away. It's hard to stop because it's kind of fun. Okay, so at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put a little bit of olive oil in the bottom of a clean bowl. And just kind of use this to wet the bowl all the way around. It'd be hard to do this with one hand. Okay, and so what I'll do is I'll just want to shape it. Okay, so I have put the plastic wrap on it, and I've got a towel here, and I'm going to put the towel over it, just like this, just to make sure it stays warm. I'm going to put it up on top of our cupboard up there. I've discovered, because it won't fit between the fridge and the cupboard, which is where I would like to put it, but up there is nice and warm as well, so I'm just going to do that. And I'll be right back. Okay, so I have it sitting up there. I'm going to set our timer for 1 hour. And during that hour, I am going to clean this place up. Okay, so it's been an hour, and so it's risen very nicely, and it's big and fluffy, and I don't want to monkey with it at all. Okay, so I'm gonna have this raised up a little bit. All I really want to do is pound the air out of it, just like that. Okay, and then I'm gonna just shape it, just like that. I don't want to knead it anymore. Like, I don't want to do any of that stuff. I really just want to shape it into the size and shape of the loaf I want. Plop it in there. Put that over there. And then you can see what I've got doing here. And I'm just going to push it out. So here's what I'm doing. You can see I have kind of flattened it out. And what I do is I'm going to cover it up again. I'm going to put it back into its little secret spot above the fridge, and I'm going to let it rise for another hour. And then you'll see what it's like. Alright, so it's been an hour. I am going to set our oven at 425 degrees. That's because our oven always gets about 25 degrees hotter than we set it for. And so we want it at 450, so I set it for 425. And here's the loaf. It has risen, so it's quite good. And as soon as this is up to 425 degrees, then I will do the next step. Alright, so it is now set at 425, and I'm just going to eat it like that. I'm going to set the timer for 25 minutes. And that's it. Okay, so it's out of the oven, and I'm just going to take it out. See how it's doing on the bottom there. Some hollow sounding, and that's the loaf right there. And I'm just going to let it cool off, maybe 10 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. Then we'll cut off a few slices and give it a test. Okay, so I think it's been time enough. I'm going to cut a few slices. And there it is. Very fluffy, actually. So how does this smell?
It smells delicious, that's why I came out of the room. I'm not going to be on camera though because I haven't had my hair or face since I got out of the shower.
Okay. I can wait.
Nope.
Okay. So does it smell like pumpernickel?
It smells delicious and it smells like pumpernickel.
That's really good.
Yep.
Huh.
But I'll taste a piece.
Okay. And then off camera you could tell us what you think.
No, you can butter it for me. You just hand me a little piece, please.
Alrighty. Quite unusual.
That butter dish is not too fancy.
It's pretty fancy.
No.
Doesn't matter.
Just cut a little corner, please. I did have dinner already. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mm. Mm. Good job.
Thanks.
I really like it because it's not the dark, heavy pumpernickel, so it's not dry.
Mm-hmm.
It's more moist.
And it has more of a consistency of like the French loaf that I was making.
Mm-hmm.
That's because I don't use the whole wheat flour or the rye flour. That's where I started with this.
Yeah, this is much better.
The first one, and it doesn't really rise, and that's the problem. It's much less. This is more glutinous, where the dark flours don't have as much gluten, so they don't have the elasticity and they don't have the lightness of this.
Whatever you say, dear, but I just know it's delicious. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. Então, realmente, this there, I'm a number of fine though. I mean, so thank you.